Did you know that not all royals are created equal? A duke might bow to a prince, but a prince bows to a king, unless that duke is also a prince. Confused yet? For centuries, European nobility has operated on a secret ladder of power that most people don't understand. Today, we're breaking down the exact hierarchy from the very top to the bottom. By the end of this video, you'll know more about royal titles than most people at Buckingham Palace. Let's dive in. The difference between royalty and nobility. Before we explore the latter, we need to understand something crucial. Royalty and nobility are not the same thing. Royalty refers to members of a ruling family, people who are related by blood or marriage to a reigning monarch. Think kings, queens, princes, and princesses. Nobility, on the other hand, is a broader social class. These are aristocrats who hold titles granted by the monarch, but they're not necessarily part of the royal family. Dukes, earls, barons, these are noble titles. Here's the key. All royals are considered part of the nobility, but not all nobles are royal. Think of it like this. Royalty is the inner circle, the VIPs of the VIPs. Nobility is the exclusive club surrounding them. Now that we've got that straight, let's start at the absolute top and work our way down. 1. Emperor Empress, the ultimate power. At the absolute pinnacle of power sits the Emperor and Empress, the highest title that exists. An emperor rules an empire, typically multiple kingdoms, nations, or vast territories. The title suggests dominion over different peoples and lands. While a king rules a kingdom, an emperor rules over kings, or at least territories that could be kingdoms. Historically, the most famous empires were the Holy Roman Empire, German territories; the Russian Empire, the Tsar was an emperor; the British Empire, Queen Victoria was Empress of India; the French Empire, under Napoleon; the Ottoman Empire, the Sultan held imperial power. Today, there's only one reigning emperor left in the world, the Emperor of Japan. The Japanese imperial family is the oldest continuing hereditary monarchy in the world, dating back over 1,400 years. Emperors and empresses are addressed as Your Imperial Majesty. Note the imperial instead of just majesty. After World War II, most empires dissolved, and the remaining imperial families either became regular monarchies or were abolished entirely. 2. King-Queen, the sovereign ruler. One step below emperor, we have king and queen, the sovereign monarch of a kingdom. The monarch is the head of state, the source of all honors and titles, and, historically, held absolute power over their realm. Today, most European monarchies are constitutional, meaning the king or queen reigns but doesn't rule. They're ceremonial heads while elected governments handle politics. But don't mistake ceremonial for powerless. Modern monarchs still have significant soft power, influence, and in some cases reserve constitutional powers. There are two types of queens: queen regnant, a ruling queen in her own right, like Queen Elizabeth II or Queen Margrethe II of Denmark; queen consort, the wife of a king, like Queen Camilla. Kings and queens are addressed as Your Majesty, or HM, Her Majesty. The king or queen wears the crown, sits on the throne, and their image appears on currency, stamps, and government documents. They are the symbol of the nation. Interestingly, in some countries, the monarch is also the supreme governor of the church, adding religious authority to political sovereignty. The difference between a king and an emperor? Territory and scope. An emperor rules multiple kingdoms or nations. while a king rules one kingdom. 3. Crown Prince, Princess, the heir apparent. Next in line, the Crown Prince or Crown Princess, the designated heir to the throne. In some countries, they are called the Prince of Wales, Britain, Prince of Asturias, Spain, or Dauphin, historical France. This isn't just another prince. This is the future monarch, and they're treated accordingly. They receive special training, undertake official duties, and their role is constitutionally recognized. Crown princes often hold additional titles. For example, Prince William is the Prince of Wales, but also Duke of Cambridge and Duke of Cornwall. It's like collecting royal achievements. Being a crown prince comes with immense privilege, but also enormous pressure. Your entire life is preparation for a job you can only get when your parent dies or abdicates. You're always waiting in the wings, being groomed for the ultimate responsibility. The form of address is still Your Royal Highness, though in some countries, crown princes have special honors or additional ceremonial roles. 4. Prince, Princess, the royal family. Now we enter the broader royal family, prince and princess. But here's where it gets complicated. Not all princes are created equal, and not everyone related to the monarch is automatically a prince or princess. There are several types: prince, princess of the blood, direct descendants of the monarch. In Britain, this typically includes the monarch's children, grandchildren through the male line, and the eldest son's eldest son. Prince consort, the husband of a reigning queen. Prince Philip was the most famous example. Interestingly, the wife of a king automatically becomes queen consort, but the husband of a queen doesn't automatically become king. It's an asymmetric tradition. Sovereign prince. In some small European states like Monaco or Liechtenstein, prince is actually the title of the ruling monarch, equivalent to a king. Here's a quirk of the British system. The title princess for women is complex. Princess Diana was actually Diana, Princess of Wales, through marriage, not Princess Diana technically. To be princess name, you must be born into royalty, like Princess Anne or Princess Charlotte. Princes and princesses are addressed as Your Royal Highness, or HRH for short. Fun fact, there's a massive difference in status between different princes. A younger son of a king might technically be a prince, but have almost no real power or inheritance, while the crown prince is being groomed to rule an entire nation. 5. Duke, Duchess, the highest nobles. Now we leave royalty proper and enter the highest tier of nobility, Duke and Duchess. Duke comes from the Latin dux, meaning leader or commander. Historically, dukes governed entire provinces or duchies, massive territories that could rival small kingdoms. In most European monarchies, duke is the highest noble title below the royal family. In fact, many dukes are members of the royal family. In Britain, the monarch's sons are typically created dukes upon marriage. Think Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, or Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry. There are two types of dukes: royal dukes, members of the royal family who hold dukedoms; non-royal dukes, nobles who've been granted the title, like the Duke of Norfolk or Duke of Westminster. The Duke of Westminster is famously one of the wealthiest people in Britain, with a fortune estimated at over $10 billion, mostly from London real estate. That's the power of holding the right title and the right lands for centuries. Dukes outrank everyone except royalty itself. They're addressed as Your Grace, the same form of address historically used for monarchs. showing just how elevated this title is. The female equivalent is Duchess, who can hold the title in her own right or through marriage. 6. Marquess, Marchioness. The border guardians show fortress imagery and border territories. Moving down the hierarchy, the Marquess, British spelling, or Marquise, continental spelling. This title comes from the French Marquis, meaning ruler of a border area, or march. A march was a frontier territory, often disputed or dangerous land along the borders of kingdoms. Because these territories were strategically crucial and constantly under threat, Marquesses needed to be especially powerful, loyal, and militarily capable. They were the kingdom's first line of defense. That's why they rank above earls, but below dukes. In Britain, there are very few marquessates. Only about 34 exist today, making it one of the rarest noble titles. It's more exclusive than being a duke in terms of numbers. The female equivalent is Marchioness, pronounced Marchioness. Fun fact, the Marquess of Bath famously opened Longleat House to the public and started a safari park on his estate in the 1960s. Even ultra-wealthy nobles need income streams when you're maintaining a massive palace. Marquesses are addressed as Marquess of Territory, or simply Lord in conversation. 7. Earl, Count, and Countess. The regional rulers show grand estates and historical Earl imagery. Next down, Earl in the British system, or Count in most other European countries. Here's something interesting. Earl is actually derived from Old Norse Jarl, while Count comes from Latin comes, meaning companion or delegate. After the Norman conquest of England in 1066, the French title Count was introduced, but the English stubbornly kept using Earl. However, the wife of an Earl is still called a Countess, not an Earless, a linguistic quirk that reveals the French influence. Earls and counts governed significant regions, sometimes entire counties. They had their own courts, could raise armies, and basically ran their territories like mini-kingdoms, collecting taxes and dispensing justice. In medieval times, this was the highest rank that could be regularly earned through exceptional service to the crown. Everything above this was typically reserved for royalty or those with extraordinary power and favor. Famous historical earls include the Earl of Warwick, known as the Kingmaker during the Wars of the Roses, who literally had the power to depose and install kings. That's how powerful an earl could be. Earls are addressed as Earl of Territory, so Earl of Wessex or Earl of Derby, not Earl Smith. 8. Viscount, Viscountess. The Deputies. Continuing down the ladder, the Viscount, pronounced VY Count, not VIS Count. The title literally means Vice Count or Deputy Count. Originally, Viscounts were appointed to act as deputies for counts or earls who couldn't manage all their territories personally. Think of them as the assistant manager of the noble world. They rank above barons, but below earls, occupying that middle management position in the feudal hierarchy. In Britain, the Viscount title is often given to the heir of an earl as a courtesy title while their father is still alive. It's like royal training wheels, learning the ropes of nobility before inheriting the full title. Viscounts are addressed as Viscount surname, formally, but in conversation they're also called Lord, just like higher nobles. The female equivalent is Viscountess, and historically, this was one of the titles that could be held by a woman in her own right, not just through marriage, though this was relatively rare. 9. Baron, Baroness. The foundation of nobility. And finally, at the bottom of the nobility ladder, but still at the top of society, we have the Baron or Baroness. Now, bottom rung might sound unimpressive, but let's be absolutely clear. Even the lowest noble title puts you in the top 1% of society historically. Barons typically controlled large estates, collected taxes from their lands, commanded local militias, and held significant local power. They were big fish in their ponds. The title comes from the Latin word baro, meaning man or warrior. In medieval times, barons were the king's military tenants. They provided soldiers and military service in exchange for land grants. They were the backbone of the feudal military system. In the British system, barons are addressed as lord or lady, followed by their territorial designation. So Baron Smith of somewhere becomes Lord Smith in everyday use. Fun fact, in the modern House of Lords, barons actually make up the largest group of peers. So while they're at the bottom of the noble hierarchy, they're still incredibly powerful in British politics and governance. Being a baron might be the lowest noble rank, but it still means you're part of an exclusive club that has shaped European history for over 1,000 years. Conclusion. And there you have it, the complete hierarchy from the absolute top to the foundation of nobility. Let's do a quick recap from highest to lowest. Emperor, Empress, King, Queen. Crown Prince, Princess Prince, Princess Duke, Duchess Marquess, Marchioness Earl, or Count, Countess, Viscount, Viscountess, Baron, Baroness. Remember, this system evolved over centuries and varies slightly between countries. Some nations have additional titles or variations, and the exact powers and privileges have changed dramatically over time, especially after the democratic revolutions of the 18th and 19th centuries. But now you know the secret hierarchy that's governed European society for over 1,000 years. From the mightiest emperor down to the humble baron. Which title surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for more Royalty 101 content. Next week, we're diving into royal succession rules and why younger sons historically got almost nothing, the brutal reality of primogeniture. Until next time, keep your crown straight and your hierarchy straighter.